started out of respect for your time. Thank you all for coming out. I'm going to have Martha come up and do our introduction, but before we start, I'd like to showcase we have the best cluster in the entire district. That is Mr. McBride from Hertz Ferry, Lisa Hasty from Ridgeview, and myself when we went to a training for IB. And so I want to put this in perspective that we are a community, we are a cluster. I appreciate you coming out. We have passionate people working in this building, we have passionate families, and so I thank you for your commitment coming out tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to our Governance Council Chair, Martha Greenwood.
Good evening. Thank you everybody for being here. I just really wanted to start by making sure that we were all very clear about the purpose for tonight's meeting. So everybody does have an agenda. This is an update on the School Governance Council and the work that we have done thus far this year. And then also, as part of our update, we are going to talk about a committee that's being formed to advocate and study the capacity issues around the school. This is not a forum to talk about our capacity issues or to gather information about capacity. There is no one here representing the school system. Our school board member is not here. This is a local community meeting where your school governance council is prepared to give you a report. So hopefully that's what everybody is prepared to talk about. And we hope to wrap this up with some positive energy about how we can all best work together collaboratively to advocate for what's best for our school. So at this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Triolo to just quickly run through a summary of some of our recent actions, and then we'll get into some more specifics around some of the items that are on the agenda.
I'd also like to mention as we get going, and we do have a microphone here for a little bit later for questions or comments, but we do have Ann Jarvis, our PTSA president, is videotaping this for us so that we'll have it on record. So thank you, Ann, for that. Just a couple of updates, a real quick summary of where we are as a governance council, the work that we've done. This summer I convened an informal meeting with some of the outgoing governance council members and some of the incoming governance council members to review our master schedule, just to say, hey, this is where we're at. So my curriculum assistant principal, Mr. Blackwell, where's Mr. Blackwell? Raise your hand. It's in the back there. Thank you for joining us. We just pulled some parents and some staff members together to say, hey, this is where we're at. And from there, we have our current schedule, current instructional schedule, and we have leeway under the governance council to make those decisions. So we are actually, tomorrow, we're going to look at some scheduling options to see how to proceed for the next academic year. Believe it or not, we start now. So we met officially on the 8th of August. That was our first meeting with our newest governance council. And at that point, we elected a chairperson and a secretary. Our secretary for the governance council is Donna Davis. Our chairperson is Martha Greenwood. Prior to that, we nominate people for positions. Knowing that Martha was going to be a community member, my first step, because Martha does have a relationship with the county, was to reach out to the district. And so I reached out to Dr. Avosa, Dr. Muri, Karen Cox, and we reviewed the role of the Governance Council chairperson and that community member. And so I wanted to make sure that before we had Martha join our team and then step up as chairperson, that there was no conflict of interest. And again, all parties that I checked with within the district confirmed there is no conflict. So we are thrilled to have Martha as our chairperson. She has worked for a number of years with Fulton County Schools, and her experience, her relationships are really what we need to take Riverwood to the next level through this new process with the district conversion. So we had our first meeting, we made our elections for the chairperson, and those were unanimous votes. Everybody agreed for our chairperson and our secretary. And then on the 28th, we reconvened to say, all right, this is what our current charter says, and we realized that our current charter expires in June 2013. And so if we do not do anything, then we're going to lose the name Riverwood International Charter School. We're going to lose some of the flexibilities. So immediately we assessed, all right, what flexibilities do we have? And we issued a letter, and I have copies of the letter here, to Dr. Avosa and the district requesting that while we would like to continue with, we would like to join the district charter, we want to make sure that during this year of overlap that we do not lose any of our flexibilities. And so we issued that letter during that meeting, we drafted it together, and we submitted it to Dr. Avosa. It was sent to Dr. Avosa on September 24th, and on October 4th we received a response saying, yes, thank you for joining the cohort. The first group of schools, there are 25 schools, 20 schools in cohort 1. We are one of those 20, one of the 20 that will become district charter schools. And so we have all of the flexibilities of our charter during this overlap time. So I appreciate Dr. Avosa extending that to us as we join the district. October 9th, we met to draft a survey. As principal, one of the things I wanted to do this year was to get a little bit more input. Where are we as a community? How are we doing? And so I asked the Governance Council to help draft a survey to assess the opening of schools. So how was the scheduling process done? What was orientation like? What was open house? So that we don't just continue certain things over and over again year after year if they're not of value. And if there are things we're doing wrong, that we adjust. And so we just received our results. I'm sad to say we did not have much participation, so I'm going to ask the Governance Council maybe to reissue it so we can get more participation, but I think we have more in this room than responded on the survey. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but either way we have some good data. Just to start. On December 18th, we met, and that was our last Governance Council meeting, and we convened a meeting to discuss our enrollment. As we are no longer a state charter or a conversion charter at the end of this year, we have to adjust our enrollment practices. And so we convened and the Governance Council met and we identified the 4 areas, and Martha's going to go over that with you, the 4 areas that we would consider students for next year. We do have some results from the district today. And that recommendation was sent then to the district. The difference between last year and this year is that as a charter school, we would manage it last year. And we would identify, the Governance Council would identify how many kids we would take. Since we cannot receive kids through the charter system anymore, we are receiving them through the magnet process because we're still a district magnet program. So we had, the Governance Council, it was a very difficult decision, but we assessed different groups of students that we would consider for magnet application, knowing our capacity and our enrollment at 1709 right now. And so we made a recommendation to the district, and Martha will share a little bit about that and where we're at. So on the 19th, then, we took the feedback from the Governance Council and that vote, and we issued another letter to the superintendent requesting that they hear our feedback and that they follow that feedback, and we have the response to that. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to Martha to share.
So just a quick process note. We're going to talk about the items on the agenda, which should not take us very long, and then we are going to open for any comments or questions related to the agenda. Our ideal is not to be here too long tonight. We know that it is the first night back to the semester, and we all have children at home, and I also hear there's a football game on that some people might want to watch. So we will allow some time at the end for people who want to talk to Bruce Pickey about next steps on the project he's going to be managing, but our goal is to wrap this up no later than 7:30, and hopefully a little bit before that, but we will go through all this information, and then we will take time for community comments. So the first thing that we wanted to address is the issue of the attendance zone and out-of-zone enrollment. And as I get into this, I want to make a clarification on something that's become somewhat miscommunicated, but I think it is very complex and somewhat confusing, so it's certainly understandable that information about this has gotten a little bit mixed up. The current conversion charter for Riverwood allows us to accept out-of-zone students into the charter. So because we're a charter, it gives us the ability to elect to enroll students who live outside of the zone. Similarly, Ridgeview is allowed to accept students outside of its attendance zone. Next school year, we will no longer be a charter school. We will be a regular Fulton County school operating as part of a charter system. Because of that, we can't accept out-of-zone students into our charter anymore. The language in the charter contract actually talks about the governance council's role in determining how many students can come into the school through the charter from out of zone. That language is completely irrelevant right now because we have no authority to accept anybody through the charter. So there's been some concern that because the board did take some action that I'll explain in a moment in December to recommend accepting enrollment into the magnet program for some out-of-zone students, that was a violation of the charter. It was not a violation of the charter. The language in the charter does not at all apply to what we did. So let me talk about what we did. Long before Riverwood was a conversion charter school, it had a magnet program. The magnet program was actually started by the county, ironically because the enrollment at Riverwood was so low that they needed ways to attract more students to attend. So we've been successful in that. The magnet program receives extra funding from the school system. It has an international focus. It has the opportunity for students to pursue an international baccalaureate, and right now it's the only one in Fulton County. So therefore, it was open to students outside of our attendance zone. So when we lose or give up our conversion charter status, we are still going to be a school with a magnet program. And that program can be open to students outside the attendance zone, but the council in itself doesn't have any jurisdiction to say how many or what categories of students. But we did elect to make a recommendation to the superintendent about whether students from out of the zone should be allowed into this magnet program next school year. So on December 18th, the council took action to make a recommendation to the superintendent, and I will go over what we recommended in some specifics here because it actually, I think, will be relevant as we move forward. We voted not to accept applications to the magnet program from any new families to the Riverwood cluster. So in other words, if a family doesn't have a child here already, they're not at Ridgeview, we are not open, we recommended not accepting applications from those groups. We did recommend accepting applications from students who meet the magnet criteria. And please note, every group we're talking about, they can only be accepted if they meet the magnet criteria. And this is because of the transition they're going through. Students who are siblings of students who would be enrolled in 2013-14. And this is because of concern about convenience for students and families that are already here being in the same school. So the council did vote in favor of allowing applications, and again, recommending that we allow application from siblings of students from outside the attendance zone who meet the magnet criteria if the siblings will be here in 2013-14. The third category that the governance council recommended be allowed to apply if they meet the magnet criteria are students who are out of zone who currently attend Ridgeview Middle School. As some of you know who've been at Ridgeview Middle School, the middle years baccalaureate program extends from the middle up until the 9th and 10th grades. So there was an interest in allowing those students to continue in that program. And then lastly, students who meet the magnet criteria, live outside the attendance zone, and are children of employees at this school 2013-14. So it's a fairly narrow group. And again, all we did was recommend to the superintendent that those students be allowed to apply for the magnet program. We did receive a response today, and we actually actually have this in writing, the response that we received, and this was based on the technical staff's review of our building capacity and our projected enrollment for next year. They said we can accept up to 30 out-of-zone students in the magnet program, no more than 30. And that how those 30 are selected is up to the governance council. So we've already established as a council that we support allowing applications from those 3 categories of students. And we will have a discussion and a vote tomorrow about the actual mechanics we would use to get from all the eligible students who might apply to the 30 that would actually be allowed to enroll. Would you like to add anything on that? Did I summarize that fairly well? But we're going to take questions and comments at the end. We're going to take it at the end. 30 ninth grade students. 30 ninth grade students. We're talking about magnet students who can apply for the ninth grade. So we will have 30. We can take 30 out-of-zone students from outside into the ninth grade. Okay? And so, again, at this point, the decision has been made by the superintendent. So I'm hoping that we can move forward and we'll work on the mechanics of how that's going to work out, but that matter is basically closed as far as our hands are concerned because that was the decision of the superintendent and it is in his authority to make that decision. So the next item that we wanted to talk about, I'm going to apologize to some of you who have probably heard more than you want to about this topic, but as Mr. Triola mentioned, the school system is moving into a new model of governance called a charter system. And over the next 3 years, every school in Fulton County will become part of this charter system. We are in a unique situation because we are a conversion charter whose charter will end on June 30th, and then we are moving into the charter system immediately. And that was a decision that was made by the prior governing board to do that. So there is a question, or there have been some questions about how the governance council is going to manage through this process. And let me just say as I go into this, again, apologizing to those who have seen this before, after the governance council voted on this recommendation, which once again is only our recommendation, we presented it immediately at the parent coffee, we presented it at the PTA meeting, and it was discussed at the open house curriculum night event. After those 3 opportunities, we heard no concerns or issues expressed. We submitted, as Mr. Triola mentioned, a request in writing to the superintendent recommending this transition plan, and he has approved that, and that letter is on our website. So what I'm explaining is essentially what has been decided, but we think that it's important that everybody understand it. So for those of you who've been out of the loop on this whole charter system conversation, Georgia's law allows school systems to convert to a charter system, which then gives the school system, and to the extent that it delegates it to individual schools, the ability to waive aspects of state law. So it's similar to being a conversion charter, except everybody is now a conversion charter, and we can operate along with the overall contract that Fulton County Schools has with the state, which means much less bureaucracy and paperwork on the part of our own local school council and principal. So the school governance councils are made up of parents, teachers, and staff committee members and principals. Under the model that Fulton County has adopted, the principals will not vote. Our principal does vote. We'll talk about that in a minute. And basically, the school governance councils are responsible for engaging with their school and designing local school flexibility, which is a fancy way of saying requesting waivers from state law, which we were also able to do under the conversion contract. We're still part of a school system, so we'll still have central support. We don't manage this building in terms of the resources that are allocated for things like facilities, the things that are allocated for lights. Those types of things are all managed at the school system level, anything that has to do with facilities and infrastructure. And then there is still a Board of Education and a superintendent, and probably one of the best ways to think about this is really all we do is make recommendations to the superintendent. We don't hire anybody, we don't fire anybody, we don't enter into contracts, and we can make recommendations about how the allocations that come our way are made, but in the end, we're basically recommending up to the superintendent, and eventually we might want to recommend some additional waivers to state law that we might want to exercise at our school. This is what the charter system looks like. So every school that's moving into this over the next 3 years is going to have to create a certified school governance council. As Mr. Triolo mentioned, we're one of 20 that are moving into this. This is the structure that the typical school governance council will have. This is different than the structure that the Riverwood School Governance Council currently has. So one of the things that we requested in our letter was that during this transition phase, we be able to keep our current structure because it's actually working well. So our structure is that instead of having 3 elected parents, we have 2 elected parents who are Donna and Deborah Davis, who are both here this evening. We have a PTA appointee, who is Claire Martin, who is here this evening. We have a foundation appointment, who is Pam Jones, who is here this evening. We have 2 teachers elected by the staff and 2 other school employees that are appointed by the principal. We have 2 community members appointed by the principal, who are me and Bruce Pipke, who's here this evening. And we have 2 students, and one of our students, Christian Reeder, is with us this evening. And then we have our principal. And we all get to vote. So we have 13 people, and we all vote. That's the structure of our governance council. And so we've asked that we be able to continue with that council for a very important reason that I'll get into in a minute when I talk about the timeline. So what do the councils do? We can approve the strategic plan. We approve the annual budget. We will manage any requests for waivers to state law that we might want to implement. And under the current conversion charter, there are certain waivers to state law that the school is operating with. If, God forbid, there's a vacancy in the principal role, we would participate in the hiring, not planning on doing that anytime soon. We do provide annual feedback on the principal, and we're not a Title I school, but if we were, we would interface with them about the Title I resources. So for all the other schools, here's what they're up to. In June, schools decided if they wanted to be part of this first group. In October and December, they held elections. So is anybody here a Hertz Ferry parent? Raise your hand. All right, so the Hertz Ferry just went through the election. You put in your home access code. It's managed by the school system. It was very formal and very contained. There were elections for parents, elections for teachers, and then the appointment of community members. In January and February, there will be training. March and June, they basically get together, they start the strategic planning process, they sign off on the school budget, and then next school year, they develop a strategic plan with the entire school community. They have more input and creativity around the budget, and they get to submit requests for waivers to state law and provide feedback on the principal performance. So part of our concern is that we already have a number of waivers to state law. We already had a governance council that actually was elected and appointed last spring, end of school year. I actually didn't start until August. So our challenge was how do we go from what we have to have this school year to what we have to be part of the charter system. So on this timeline, you can see that our process on the bottom had us getting established basically by August, September, when we were all on board, and then we are responsible for governing under the existing conversion charter while this new charter system is supposed to be put in place. So I guess one option would have been that we continue on the sort of bottom path, if you will, and a whole new group comes in and starts on the top path, but you can imagine how dysfunctional that would be because you come to a point where you have 2 different governance councils basically with overlapping responsibilities. So what we asked the superintendent to allow is to allow for the current conversion charter governance council to basically step into the charter system role. So beginning this month, we will move up and go through the training and all of the requirements of the charter system while simultaneously serving as the governance council under the conversion charter. So that's probably way more than most of you care to know about that, but that's basically the transition plan that was proposed. The other option would have been for us to wait, for us to say, we're going to finish out June 2014, and then we'll become part of the second cohort, and then we'll go next school year, elect people, and start over. The issue with that is, if you notice, this request for earned flexibility options, we would not have been allowed then to request innovations and waivers until 2014-15. So it puts the innovative and really the benefit of doing this off another year. In addition, by asking for this transition, we got to keep some very important things. One of the things many people were concerned about when we gave up the conversion charter status was that we would not be able to call ourselves a charter school. And we have received approval to continue to call ourselves Riverwood International Charter High School. So from now until whenever, we can keep that name because of this transition plan that we've established. And we also get to keep all of the waivers that we currently have, whereas if we went to a stop-start model, we would have to give everything up and start over again. So based on our deliberations, that seemed to make the most sense, and the superintendent, as I mentioned, has agreed with that. I just want to point out, because there's been some question about this too. So this is how the people who are being elected newly are coming in, and so this is how we're going to treat ourselves starting in January. There's a planning year, which is basically for everybody else with the rest of this year. So that's when you get trained, you work on your strategic plan. They don't really get to do much. We get to continue governing under our current contract. So there's elections, and in their case, they had 3 people elected. Half of those people serve through the next school year. Then there's an election, and then the rest of them, plus the new person elected, serve through 2014-15, which gives you staggered terms. So we're going to follow that same model. Half of us will drop off at the end of next school year, and there will be an election in March of next school year, and then the other half will drop off after that so that we will have staggered terms. So we're basically kind of jumping right onto the charter system timeline, and we will follow that. I really don't want to spend a whole lot more time on this because it doesn't really affect the day-to-day operations of the school or student achievement. We're glad to take questions about this afterwards, but I will just also point out, oops, there's a few more people, that we are going to have to meet the commitments of the new school governance councils effective immediately. So these are the commitments that we all have to sign on to. We have to attend 75% of our meetings. We have to have a meeting of 6 a year. We generally meet every month. There will be 2 standing committees that have to be formed, a financial and a communications. We have to serve on one of those, and we have to attend 75% of those. We also have to participate in training, which will be a 6-hour training in January and February. We will have to pass a criminal background check, and we have to sign a code of conduct. I am going to provide an opportunity for anybody who's currently on the council, because these are not the rules they signed up for. These are new rules that have come across. If anyone does not feel like they can meet these requirements, then I am going to ask that they just take this opportunity to step down. And if they do, that'll create an opportunity for someone else to come onto the council. But just know that these are the standards that the council is going to be held accountable for going forward. If you have questions or concerns or a better idea, certainly open to a better option of how to make this work. Corinne Schooley is the person who's responsible for all of this, so please email her. But at this point, we're operating at the direction of the superintendent, and as far as we're concerned, that's what we need to do, and we're going to move forward as I described. Okay, moving right along to things that are much more interesting, I am going to transition it over to Bruce. Are you ready? And Bruce is going to talk about how we are going to organize moving forward to advocate for the capacity needs of the school.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I think if there's one thing we can agree on tonight, it's that we all want what's best for Riverwood and our kids. We're all parents, we're all volunteers, and a lot of us in this room tonight have put in a lot of hours to make this school work, and we're very proud of that. I would like to take just a minute to acknowledge that, and Martha touched on this briefly, that at one point, Riverwood and North Springs, one of our schools, was being considered for closing because there was not enough enrollment in our schools. And so we had to reach out to a bigger community to save our school. And I've seen over the years, for those of us that have been around a long time, excuse me, that bigger community took a chance and sent their kids to Riverwood. And thanks to them, we were able to save this school. And I've seen unbelievable contributions by those families over the years. So I just want to acknowledge them and tell them that we do appreciate them. Unfortunately, this is an all too familiar task for me. My kids have been at overcrowded schools, both at High Point Elementary and at Ridgeview Middle School. And I have seen how this process works. The good situation that we're in now is that Riverwood at least is on the list to be expanded and improved upon. At High Point and at Ridgeview, neither one of those schools, even though we got to the point where we had 18 portable classrooms at High Point, 18, we had no playground. We had to block off the parking lot so the kids had a place to play, and it was not even on the SPLOST. At Ridgeview, we had a 35-year-old building that was falling apart, and it was not in the SPLOST. So we had to fight. I say fight, we had to work with the system, work with the people that are dedicated, that are hardworking, that work for the Fulton County school system to try and solve those problems. And I'm happy to say that we did, and we worked through it. And we can work through this too. There is a good way to approach this, and that is, to me, is in working with the people and sending a positive message and making sure that our voices are heard in a positive way. They generally, you have to understand, there are 7 board members that are elected. Fulton County is a very big school system with a lot of needs at a lot of schools. We are not the only school in this situation, so we have to make sure that we're smart about how we approach this. There's only so much money to go around. So my approach, what I'm going to try and do is to get us from being finished in 2017, hopefully to 2015. That would be a huge accomplishment. And we have an unbelievable wealth of knowledge and people here at Riverwood. And what I'm trying to do is call upon them to help us put together a committee that can make a smart approach to the county officials to make them understand what we need to do here at Riverwood to solve our overcrowding problem. So I've already had a couple people that I'm friends with and have known for a long time that are in the construction business and engineers and have worked on schools before. They're going to help us to develop this plan. So I've got 2 clipboards here. One is for people who have an expertise in construction, engineering, architecture, so again, that we can be smart about what we take to the county. And then the other list is just for people that want to support the plan, that want to show a unified front, so that when we go to school board meetings and we need to show that the community supports this plan, those people will be there behind us. And also be willing to write emails and to attend meetings. So I'd welcome anybody that wants to give up some of their time, because again, we are volunteers. Anybody that wants to give up their time to try and solve this problem. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
And let me just say I had a conversation with Gail Dean, who's the school board member who represents this community today, and I also spoke with her before the holiday. She is poised to advocate on our behalf to address our capacity issues both in the short run and in the long run, but she needs our help. She needs to be able to convince the other board members to accelerate our timeline. She cannot do that by herself. And what is not helpful are individual anecdotes, or even worse, angry or accusatory emails. We certainly don't want to set a negative image for our school and the community as we communicate about this. But if we can organize collectively to put together a solid case about the impact that our capacity issues are having for our students in terms of their academic achievement and any concerns we might have about possible safety concerns moving forward. If we can document that in a rational way that is based on facts and provide her with that, then she can move forward and help us do the work we need to with the school board. So that's really what Bruce is about. And Bruce also has a lot of experience working with the school board members. There are certainly some guidelines about how one communicates with them that are based on lessons learned that can either get their attention in a positive and productive way or make them hope they never hear from you again. And we want to be in the first category. We want to be people who are seen as helping to advocate for our students and not annoying people that are at odds with each other or that are making accusations about things that should have been done and weren't. We need to be positive, we need to be together, and we need to move forward. I do just want to mention a couple things that we're going to be talking about at our upcoming meetings in case you'd like to attend those, but also, just so you know, they're on a radar screen. We are going to be talking tomorrow morning at our meeting. We have a meeting at 7:30 in the morning, let me say this. Last month we did also meet in the evening, and I am going to be proposing tomorrow that we alternate morning and evening so that the meetings are somewhat more accessible. We're also looking into seeing whether we can videotape them. I cannot imagine anybody would want to watch us, but just in case you might be an opportunity to videotape some of the meetings. That way we can have people actually attend if they want. But our agendas and our minutes are posted on the website. And next, tomorrow morning, we'll be talking about the school safety plan. Mr. Jewell is going to present a summary of our school safety plan, talk about recent changes that have been made. That'll give us an opportunity to have an ongoing conversation about how that might be enhanced. We're also going to be talking about the schedule for next year. So again, there will be final decisions on the schedule tomorrow, but we are going to start talking about the schedules and things such as, can we make our classes perhaps longer, and are we willing to do shorter lunches, some of those types of issues that we know are important to students. And then in March, we'll start taking up, February, we'll start taking up important discussions about the budget and some choices that we can make about how we use our school resources. So those are things that are coming up, and we encourage you to stay tuned to those. Would you like to say anything?
I would just like to thank Martha for her leadership at the Governance Council. It's been wonderful working with Martha through this process, to have the skill set and the knowledge and the experience with the district, and then for Bruce to step up with this next project to help really take us to the next level. As principal, the principal of any building, the hat they wear most is the advocate for their building. I have to make sure that everything I say and do with the district is on behalf of our students. And I wear that hat, I wear it well. I was known as a squeaky wheel in my last district with Scott Murray, who's now our deputy superintendent, to the point where it's my job to fight. What I didn't have at my last school was committed parents in such a involved and organized fashion in a structure like the Governance Council. So I want to thank all of our Governance Council parents and committee members, our students, the hours that they put in, volunteers to make this place just the absolute best school possible. It's a pleasure to work with you. I also want to mention, I do have copies of the letters that we referenced, the 3 letters. I do not have a copy of the email because it is hot off the press as of 4:38. But we will make sure all of this is available on the website, but I have some copies here that I'll place on the back table. If we run out, please check out our website.
So again, I'm sure none of us want to be here very long, so let's just agree that wherever we are at 7:15, hopefully we will not have comments until 7:15, but if we do, we will stop at that point, give people a chance to find Bruce, and hopefully lend their support to him, so that we have time to do that and people can be on their way by 7:30. So we have a microphone. So the process is this. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question about things that are on our agenda, feel free to approach the microphone. You can line up, that way we'll know who's next. And we're going to allow 3 minutes just to make sure that we have opportunities for people to hear. Anybody who wants to talk? Yes, ma'am. Oh, Chris. Mr. Triolo is supposed to turn on the microphone.
I just had a quick question. Thank you for explaining it all so clearly. After reviewing numerous emails, I was very confused. You talked about that Dr. Avosa had approved the 30 students, the maximum 30 students for new students. I didn't hear or catch you talking about the currently enrolled students who are from outside the district. Have they already been approved to remain at the school?
So the charter makes clear that any students that are accepted may stay until they finish or choose to withdraw. Also from the school system standpoint, once any child is accepted into an out-of-zone school, get through a hardship, magnet, charter, that becomes their home school. And so that is their school until they leave.
And so that would apply both for the current charter and the new charter that we're going to be part of.
So it also will apply for the magnet program, yes. So basically the rule, that the policy of the school system is that students who move to a school, be through it, no child left behind choice, magnet, hardship, the various methods through which charter students can use choice to go to another school. Once you are accepted, unless you have behavioral issues, that becomes your home school, and you stay there until you finish the last grade at that school. And I would just like to make a comment about that. I think the students that are here from out of zone are leaders in this school. I mean, we've looked at data. Many of them are in the magnet program. Many of them are IB diploma candidates. Many of them are honor students. Not that there's anything if you're not. Not that there's any issue if you're not. They're leaders on our student government. They're involved in our extracurriculars, in our arts programs, in our athletic programs. And I think the last thing that can happen that would be positive among us is if we start looking at factions within our school. The Governance Council has absolutely no interest in talking about those that are enrolled in this school now and whether or not they're from out of zone or in zone. Everybody at this school is part of the Riverwood family, and the Governance Council, and I can speak for all of us, has no intention of ever asking anyone who's part of this family to leave it. And that's our position. So we're supporting.
It's hard work.
Thank you.
I'm a former parent of Riverwood. I've had 3 that have come through here, and I'm also a former PTSA president. So I'm kind of on the outside looking in, and I'm also a recipient of a lot of rumors. First of all, I don't understand what you were talking about, your plan. You know, maybe everybody understands a plan. I don't know if it's to expand the school. I'm also hearing rumors from also former parents that you're going to be getting rid of kind of raising Hertzberry Elementary and expanding over there into that piece of property. And I'd like to know, so there's a 2-part question with hopefully a 2-part answer.
I'm going to let Bruce kind of address the plan part, but let me first clarify, we aren't doing any of that. And that's, I think, so the school board is responsible for those plans, and everything you've mentioned has been discussed but not finalized. So part of what we're trying to do is to take a proactive role. Bruce, stand up. To take a proactive role in the decision-making of the school board about how those things unfold. Come use the microphone. So why don't you just give a little bit more detail about what's been proposed to date and kind of what you're going to be working on.
And I apologize if I wasn't clear, but the plan, our plan that we've been talking about really is just at this point at the starting stage. And that is to try and get parents with an expertise or an interest to help us organize our thoughts, organize what we're going to go to the administration, the county administration, to try and advocate for our school. Yes, the answer is we need to expand this building. We need to make this building be able to accommodate not just the students that are here today, but what the projected enrollment will be over the next 5 years. And I believe the projections take us over 2,000 students. So this building, without any out-of-district kids, this building needs to be able to accommodate more students. As, you know, be careful what you wish for. We have a great school, kids want to go here. So, you know, we need to make plans to do that. So my only plan at this point really is to try and put together some interested people that have some expertise, sit down, come up with some ideas, and then advocate for this school to solve this problem. Does that answer your question? Sort of. Unfortunately, yeah.
Where are these kids coming from?
You want to talk about? Yes. A lot of kids coming from private schools and just more young families moving to Sandy Springs.
So let me just answer the question this way. Our enrollment projection next year is about 1710 plus 30, so 1,740. Of that growth, the growth part is coming from the attendance zone. And if you look at the students who are now enrolled at Hertz Ferry and Lake Forest and High Point, and you sort of think about those students moving forward, they are a very large group of students that are moving through the pipeline in Sandy Springs, added to the fact that many families choose to come to Riverwood who've previously been in private school. So the projected growth, and I want to just make sure everybody in the room is clear on this, the projected growth is not from out-of-zone students. We can shut off the out-of-zone students, and we are going to continue to grow because the growth is coming from within our attendance zone. We are waiting for the updated projections. We should have those in the next couple of days. But that 2,000 mark, actually we're projected to be well above 2,000 by the time we get to 2017, which is when this building is proposed to be expanded. And that's why we're taking advocacy to try to have that addressed more quickly. But look at the website and those projections will be available. But it is in zone. It's not.
One last thing, just in case, because you live with this every day, you don't think about it, but it's because of SPLOS. The good news is the money is there. The money has been set aside. The taxpayers of Fulton County have set that money aside. So it's there. Now we just have to advocate for how it's used and when it's used. And we're advocating to use it sooner rather than later.
Hi, my name is Beth Hawks. I'm the mother of a 9th grader. I'm sorry, I'm one of the people that moved to the community just for Riverwood. Sorry about that, okay? Moved to a new community that was built here with, and we've had, just every month, we've had more high schoolers move to my community, which is great. I've never lived in that before. I am a communications professional. I have worked with more than a dozen government entities. I know the importance of transparency. I know the importance of keeping open communication. I am totally on board. I get what you're saying, Bruce and Martha. We have to build a strong team here. And, you know, rumors, all this stuff, yes, that all goes around. But the reason they go around is because there's not transparency. And then you have, you know, like, you have to go above and beyond to let people know. I am so thrilled that you're moving the times of the regular meetings from 7:30 to 6 because we all want to come. I came to a charter school for my daughter because I wanted to participate in her schooling. So, Ms. Greenway, what I'd like to ask for you to do, if you could be transparent. I thank you for letting the county know that you were going to serve on the governance board. If you could let us know, let the community know what your current relationship is with the school system.
Sure, I'm glad to do that. And actually, one thing that Mr. Triolo didn't say that I'll just add is there were a couple of people, actually two exactly, who raised some concern about that over the last couple of weeks. So we actually emailed again to the people who are responsible for charter schools and who are managing the conversion charter and to the area superintendent. and asked yesterday for assurance as to whether or not there was any conflict. And so we do have in writing from all three of them that my role in the school system does not represent any conflict. Although I must say, after the last few weeks, I'm not sure whether I'm happy. But anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time up here talking about myself because then that probably would create conflict. But I have a contract with the school system where I do strategic planning work. If any of you have seen the strategic planning document that's on the website, I actually produced that. And I am working with other governance councils as we move into the charter system to help build their skills. So that's what I'm doing. If you want to know any more, you can look me up on the internet and find out all you're interested in. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jill Siegel, and I want to know, I think you mentioned the governance council is going to decide tomorrow morning what criteria is going to be used to select the 30 magnet students?
I think it's more what the process will be to get from all the groups, those three groups that we've said are eligible to apply, how are we going to select 30?
So it could be done in more scientific.
What's traditionally, let me just say this, what's traditionally been done with the magnet program, because there's always been a number, is that there's been a lottery. So basically people apply by a certain date and then it's a random process to select a number. So I don't want to speak too much ahead, but we've already done the work of narrowing who gets in the pool. And so the system's now saying, we support your decisions about who gets in the pool, but we only are going to allow you to take 30 out of the pool. So how they get out of the pool, we have to work on.
I want to stick with that subject, but I'm not clear what you're saying. Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to stick with what you're saying, and it's working.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's the reason I was trying to stop you in the presentation to find out, because are you saying the other day the governance took voted in the siblings, which we thought there was about 17. I'm sorry, maybe a little more. And then you also we voted in the organization, Riverwood voted in the additional 30 plus kids from Ridgeview. Then you also voted in on top of that teachers' children, so that's number 60, 70 now. And then an additional 30, is that what you're saying?
Okay, I understand that.
That's what I'm trying to get.
Okay, let me explain that. So we recommended, and I want to just keep hitting on that, recommended that applications be accepted to the magnet program from students who meet the criteria, who were siblings of students that will be here in 2013-14, children of employees who are here in 2013-14, and out-of-zone students who are now attending Ridgeview as 8th graders. We didn't put a number on that. We just said we would accept applications from those people. So now what the superintendent has said is, fine, you can allow applications to the magnet program from those categories of students, but you can only select 30 from that group.
And that's 3 groups that were approved, is what you're saying.
So there might be a population, let's say there's 100 students eligible in those 3 groups. We somehow have to figure out how to select the 30 that actually get to come here in August.
Okay, so that's, so then of those 3 populations, then
There'll be 30, yeah.
Okay.
So it would be basically our base enrollment, which as I said is about 1,710. Then there'd be 30 above that. And I'd also want to emphasize that that wasn't just a number somebody pulled out of their hat. Patrick Burke sat, Patrick. He actually went and looked at the physical layout of the building, the number of students we had, and they ascertained that we could manage 30 students above our projection, and that's where we got to 30.
in your presentation.
Can I ask you to do one thing? Can you let the woman behind you speak real quickly, and then I'll let you speak? We're just trying to limit people to 3 minutes. Let's just let somebody else have turn. Come back on.
Good evening, I'm going to be
Oh, there we go. You can sing now.
So good evening, and I'm going to be very brief because I'm trying to get to watch the game and finish dinner. I applaud everyone in their efforts to come together as a community, but what I would like, and I'm sure this is not the forum, but I do want to speak publicly on record as saying, because I would not be myself if I didn't. I find it a little strange having been an employee for the county and also now a parent of 3 students, 3 high school students in the county, that we do we are forced to have a meeting like this because we only have one IB program in a high school in a county as large as Fulton County. And so a parent that has worked and advocated in the system for parents, it's important that we go to board meetings and attend them, as well as I'm sure that you want to holler out sometimes in your principal's meetings that it's a little bit unfair. So we're forced to transport our students 80 minutes, in my case, and some of the students, I'm sure, as far of distance. And it's unfair to the students that we put that pressure on them, yet they do perform, and I applaud them. So I just want to say to the parents that are here who are out of zone and out of district, we need to go to our school board meetings and put pressure on the people that we elect to put another IB high school program in a county as large as Fulton County. Thank you.
Martha, you seem not to like people ask questions or not on your timeline. I just wanted to commend the lady, a couple before me that said the transparency. I've never been to a meeting where people have been shut off like this. I find it stunning. We have people here that pay taxes like you and just have different opinions. And I don't understand that. Why
So
is
the
that
agenda
approach?
says that we're limiting each speaker to 3 minutes.
I know, but I wrote you on Friday. I said, what was the agenda so we could prepare? I said, are we using Robert's Rules of Orders? And you said, no, it's just going to be an open. You can come and talk as you want. I mean, I just think that you did say that, right? Okay.
So I understand your point of view. Okay.
Anyway, here's some of my questions. How many kids are at the school? I mean, that was a stunning presentation you gave. But you wouldn't let anyone ask any questions. It's impossible to formulate questions also. How many kids are from out of what we would call, and no offense to anyone, Sandy Springs? I consider the community Sandy Springs because our city's called Sandy Springs.
I do not have the exact number in front of me, but it's around 450 that are out.
Okay.
out
And
of
here's the only question I have, and I'm not trying to be difficult. She said we're going to let 30 more people in, which 30 doesn't bother me. And, you know, and then he said we're going up to 2,000, and someone objected. And then there's 1,700 being bantered around. So we're at 1,700 now, but we've let 450 other people, and I'm just asking, outside of our tax base to come here, we're being nice, right? 450 people. Well, no, you said 450 people outside of Sandy Springs.
Currently, of our 1,709 that we currently have enrolled, around 450 are outside of our attendance zone. They are still in the county and they're still tax-paying citizens.
No, but what's an attendance zone?
Our attendance zone is our attendance boundary that the district identifies for those kids that live within that area to automatically have a seat at Riverwood. Versus North Springs, versus the other high schools. Each school has an attendance zone, that if you live within that zone, that's the school you go to.
Well, clearly, I'm showing my ignorance on what an attendance zone is. Yeah, but I think the issue was how many, if there's people in our community that pay taxes, and let's say they don't support the view of the governance council, or there's taxpayers that don't want to have the overcrowding of the school. How do they go about asking you not to allow that? Is that something we ask you directly?
So, the last meeting that we had with the Governance Council, that's where we had some parents speak up and give their input. The Governance Council, this was very hard for them to make a decision. These are our kids, and we have a number of families here that are out of attendance zone. And so when we make a decision like this, it's hard because they are our kids. No matter what their zip code is, they're our kids. And we have a duty as a public school to serve our community and our district. I would say that as a magnet program, we serve the district. We serve the district. Magnet programs are there to serve students from other areas. And so that's a great thing, and it's turned out to be a wonderful asset to our program. It's something that when I came on board, everybody shared. That's what they value, is the diversity and where different background that people come from and who makes up our school. And so our recommendation, and again, I'll come back to the word Martha keeps using, and that is that we made a recommendation from those three groups. The superintendent is now saying, Mr. Triolo, Riverwood Governance Council, you will take in 30 kids, 30 magnet kids that are outside of your attendance zone. So we are going to follow that. Now, how we select those 30, through a lottery, through which groups, That is for our governance council to figure out. But we serve as a public school principal. I serve the district, and I serve the Board of Education. And we're going to do our job. And we are going to provide the best quality education for every student that walks into this building.
Right. But on we should be doing that. Good idea. That's a great idea. But that wasn't my question. I was trying to get to how are we getting to overcrowded if we're admitting an extra.
We have another person behind you. We're trying to hold to the 3 minutes. I know we're going over that much.
So, okay, do we come tomorrow morning and ask that question, or?
Well, tomorrow morning we do have a set agenda. It is an open meeting. You're open to attend. We will not have a open session tomorrow morning at tomorrow's meeting.
Just get back in line. Get back in line, guys.
Hi, I'm Renee Pinsky. My daughter is a current senior, and when we were here in a tour on November 9th for prospective student from private school, because we out of the zone, but we attend private school, we clearly asked this question. We said, are we were asking, again, they explained everything about the out of zone, and we're asking if we have current, while we apply, not attending next year, but while we apply, if we have a student currently enrolled, are we going to be grandfathered in? And they said absolutely yes. That was November 9th. By December 17th, which we never heard about, this is the first time of the meeting that were, emailed that we would know about that new rule. I want to know, in a matter of 5 weeks, how is that, why would it, decision change that dramatically? Meaning, I understand that you would stop from out of zone because of products, whatever, but how do you tell parents that currently in and obviously love the school and, my daughter is graduating and we are, applying for our next order to come in, we were saying that if we have a daughter currently, there shouldn't be a problem, and now it seems to me that is a completely different rules. So I don't know, and I wasn't sure if that 30 kids are for cases like that my daughter is here, but obviously she won't repeat senior, so she will be out, she'll be in college.
So do you have another child that's coming up?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So, as I say, from private school, that's what we are. Like,
What
I
grade?
think she's 8th grade currently, so.
8th grade.
Yeah, and that's what we were promised, meaning to me, if my child is here while I'm enrolled, I'm still in the school, meaning I'm not enrolling next year. I'm enrolling in 2013 right now. So my child is enrolled right now, and my child has brought, a lot of benefit to the school as well. Ariel, it's been the best thing happened to us as Riverwood. So for me, not to allow my child to go there just because the rule had changed in 5 weeks, it's very upsetting. So I would just wonder, the capacity issue has been probably for a long time, so I was wondering why it changed in 5 weeks. Like, either no sibling at all, fine, I understand that, or allow no sibling, but it seems like just unfair.
Understand, Martha, if you want to address from the governance standpoint. From the school standpoint, we have to realize that when we accept, we could probably handle 40 or 50 next year, but the problem is that we have to make sure that we have a seat for them for 4 years in a row. And so this is a difficult decision. This is a difficult year to do this, but we had to make this decision now because of the projections moving forward that at 2017, I think it is close to 2,200, 2,300 kids in this building. That's just not feasible. So unfortunately, this is the time frame that we have to make this decision. And it's not easy, as I shared. This is not an easy position. Nobody here is comfortable saying and making this decision. But we had to make a recommendation to the district. And again, the district's coming back and saying this is how you will proceed now, because in the past we operated under charter. That stops this year. Now we will function as a Fulton County school that has a magnet program and magnet enrollment. So we have two different things going on.
What I'm saying is, why would they not honor old sibling? My child is still enrolled in school. So what you're saying is, if she wasn't here 3 or 4 years ago, I understand. I don't ask for, for that. But I'm saying, if I apply while my child is still in your school, I think that we should. It's just a matter of the way you address it or the way you name it. Meaning, she still has a sibling in the school. It doesn't matter if she's here next year. She's here now and out of time. So that's what I'm saying. So the recommendation would be for people like us to look at it, because I do know in the past that things change, that people
governance council because they're going to decide tomorrow how to proceed. But I have, in my last school, I was at a magnet program. So you have a couple things going on. Number one, let's say the governance council tomorrow says, all right, we're only going to accept applications from those three groups: siblings, employees, and Ridgeview 8th grade. Okay, so we've estimated that's about 65, 70 kids. Now, of those 65, 70 kids, they have to make entrance requirements. So those 65, 70 kids may whittle down to 20, may whittle down to 30, may whittle down to 40. So I encourage you to still put the application in, but there's still a whole process involved. And it's unfortunate that this is the year that we have to make this change.
We will just say, I don't know how promising this would be, but the school system has a hardship process also, and they will consider individual cases. So if indeed you're not eligible through the process that the school will be managing, call the school system and ask to talk to them about the hardship process. Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Martha, thank you for the clarification that we are currently still working under the existing charter that's at Riverwood right now that they have been under for the past 2 or 3 years, or I think since 2008. And that charter expires now and was it June 30th of 2016? So based on that, and I know that in the charter it has requests that if you go through and you request for agenda items to be added to the agenda, in 2 weeks' notice they're supposed to be. And I know that there have been multiple requests for agenda items to be added to the governance, and that's not being done. I would like to try to understand with the number of violations, because that would certainly be one, and the conflicts of interest that are clear in here, when are those issues going to be addressed by the governance committee?
So just to be clear, this is not a governance committee meeting.
No, I know. I'm asking that they're in here in the governance charter, which is what y'all are chartered by as the governance committee. There are rules and regulations that you're supposed to follow. And my question is, one of the things is that if you want to add an agenda item, you send it to the governance council and ask for it to be added to an agenda. And my question is if that is followed, when and then if it's not followed, what are you going to do to resolve violations?
Right. What I would suggest you do if you have a perception that there's a violation is to communicate with Laura Stoll, who is the coordinator for charter schools, and then she will do the investigation and let us know if that's actually correct.
Is that the entire document that you're working on right now, the charter, the 2008 charter?
I believe it is.
Okay, great. Well, on that also, it is very clear and it details those things what the conflict of interest a person would be. And in the Riverwood community, none of us can serve on any board that has a conflict of interest. Why? I was very excited and I was very appreciative of the work that you've done on the governance. I'm very excited to have your expertise. But since you have since alerted us that you are being compensated financially by providing services as you described to Fulton County, that is absolutely a conflict. And I'm so appreciative that Fulton County is willing to waive you of that, but you should have never had the opportunity to be on the governance council if you're receiving money in remuneration services. And it's not only on the current charter, it's in the new charter. And again, you've done an amazing job, very appreciative, but it's a conflict of interest. How is it not a conflict of interest?
Sure, and I would like to answer as principal because I asked Martha to join the governance council, and I did the due diligence of contacting the district and work with Rock and Clay to make sure that there is no conflict of interest. Martha is under contract with the district. She serves the district. The work that she does with the district is completely separate from the work that is done here at Riverwood. She has not received compensation for anything that she does here on behalf of our program. Her skill set actually would cost us quite a fortune if we even wanted to consider her in an official capacity. She is serving as a parent. She's serving as a community member. If you have a question about whether or not there is a conflict, I would ask that you reach out to Laura Stoll. But again, I have contacted the district, and I have full faith that we are not violating any conflict of interest. So I would refer you to the district.
But you've read the handbook on page 74 that clearly describes that as a conflict, and the code of conduct and the new one, and the gifts and solicitations, it would all violate.
As has the legal firm that represents Fulton County, so I refer you to the district.
Is there anybody else that's on the governance board that's being paid by Fulton County as well?
That's the teachers.
I am.
Everybody.
No. And again, Martha is not providing compensation for work with Riverwood. Okay.
When you talk about overcrowding with Riverwood, is North Springs overcrowded as well?
I'll repeat the question, and this is going to be our last question. The question was, is North Springs overcrowded as well? So, if you look at the longer-term projections, North Springs is going to basically max out its capacity in about the next 3 years, not at all to the extent that Riverwood is. So I know that, and I don't know if this is where you're going, but one of the suggestions that's been made by some in the community who are not part of the Riverwood school community is that we could solve our overcapacity issue by simply redrawing the line between Riverwood and North Springs. And the problem with that is, right now, there is not enough room for both groups of students between North Springs and Riverwood, but if you look out to that 2017 figure, there is absolutely no way that the two schools at their current size can handle the entire population, the public high school population in Sandy Springs. So there has to be more capacity somewhere. And so the SPLOST plan, which has been voted on and approved by the entire county, does allow for the expansion of Riverwood, again, based on that longer-term growth.
Has there been any discussion about building another high school? So I'm hearing that there has been some discussion about redistricting.
Well, there actually hasn't, because it's not going to solve the problem. So I think there certainly was a consideration of that, but then it was quickly determined that that's not a solution. There aren't enough students over capacity to justify a third school. So the expansion of Riverwood was deemed to be the most appropriate and expedient solution. Okay. All right, I have 7:15. Okay, so with this, we will be up here if anybody wants to ask us additional questions. We thank you all for coming. And please come see Bruce, who is going to move over here. Bruce will be right here with his clipboards. Thank you so much.